So you've probably been hearing a lot about vinyl lately. Maybe you listen to the amazing podcast For the Love of Vinyl, or you just listen to this podcast and we talk about vinyl all the time. And we talk about record labels on here who are pressing vinyl or are about to press vinyl or who have been pressing vinyl for the past 10, 15 years. Everybody loves it. I mean, it's growing in popularity and it's never stopped growing in popularity. And you're ready to dive in and to press vinyl. There's 5 things I want you to know, 5 things I want you to keep in mind before you do that, because there's a lot of mistakes to be made along the way. There's a lot of things that will take up time, more money than you imagine. And that's what I want to prevent you from underestimating when it comes to pressing vinyl. And that's what we're talking about today. Hello and welcome back to a new episode of Other Record Labels. I'm your host, Scott Orr, where we talk about the art and culture of running an independent record label. Today, I want you to listen to this before you press your first vinyl record, or maybe before you press your next vinyl record. By the way, if you are pressing records, that's probably because you're releasing an album. If you're releasing an album, you want to have a physical release and you want to have a digital release. And for your digital release, may I recommend today's sponsor, Lander. Lander is an all-in-one platform for releasing music, including incredible studio tools, some distribution tools like unlimited releases to all streaming and download platforms, mastering services, and so much more. Check them out by going to otherrecordlabels.com/Lander, and thanks to them for making our episodes free week after week. Before you press vinyl, I want you to ask this first question. Are you sure? Are you sure this is the right decision? Don't just press vinyl because you feel like you have to. I've heard from a few folks in our label mates communities and on clarity calls, and sometimes people just say to me, I've heard that vinyl's popular. I'm surprised, but I think I should look into doing that. And I don't think that's a good starting point. And it's one of the things that kind of scares me because I hear people saying that they hear that vinyl's coming back, and so they're going to look into that. That's great. I mean, I think you should, and I guess that's probably why you're listening to this episode, but I don't think it's a great starting point for a lot of people who aren't fans of vinyl or collectors of vinyl themselves. You really want to ask the question, does my community, does my genre, does my music fan base, my music fan archetype, are they vinyl collectors? Are they vinyl fans? That's probably an easy answer for a lot of you. Maybe 75% of you out there are like, yep, my genre, vinyl's super popular. So it's no question that you should probably do vinyl. But for some people, it might not be right for their community. Maybe their community is more digital. Maybe it's K-pop and they do those incredible CDs and books and stuff. Maybe it's more lo-fi cassettes is their culture. Maybe their community doesn't have the disposable income to do $30, $40, $50 records. And they're more likely to stick to streaming platforms or to lower tiered cassettes. So these are questions that you want to ask. I'm not saying you shouldn't do vinyl. Definitely not. I'm just saying there are some questions that you want to ask ahead of time. And the first one is, are you sure? Are you sure that the artists can sell records? Now, listen, some artists want to do vanity pressings just to hear themselves on vinyl. It's like a bucket list pursuit. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very expensive. I worked with an artist who wanted to do that. No problem. If you want to spend the money, I get it. I get that feeling. It's great. In some cases, vinyl can be a loss leader, meaning it's drawing more attention to the physical product than to your digital. Or in some ways, it's likely the other way around, where the profits from your digital downloads cover the few folks who buy vinyl. But either way, the physical and the digital are complementing each other, even if one is maybe slightly more profitable than the other. One of the things you want to do, if you are sure that you're pressing vinyl, is just to consider the quantities. 100 records, bare bone design and bare bone features might be $11 or $12 a record. That's cool, no issue. But as soon as you start adding things, and I'm always a fan of adding more things to make this a luxury item, to make this a really cool product that people want to buy, you start to get up to $15, $16, $17 per unit, probably even more if you're doing color unit or color in color, maybe like printed inserts or printed sleeves, color labels. You're getting quite high as it costs per unit if you're at 100 records. The price breaks occur over 200 units, with the sweet spot being around 300. But how hard is it to sell 300 records? Forget that. How hard is it to sell 100 records? I think you should pick a number and then have a realistic plan for each unit. So before you get into vinyl, as you're asking yourself, is this the right decision? If you're doing 100 records, if you're doing 200 records, if you're doing 300 records, let's break down how we're going to sell those records. So if I've got 100 records, I'm going to send 5 to my local record store, maybe 5 to the artist's local record store. We've got 10 or 20 to family and friends. We got 10 on Bandcamp, maybe 10 at a release show. Maybe I'm keeping 5 for free giveaways or to give to like people who've helped out with the record. Maybe that's 40, 50% of the records spoken for. But now how am I going to get rid of the other? Am I just going to hope that magically orders come in? Well, I hope they do for you too, but that's not always the case. And so just have a plan. Have a plan for how you're going to move these records. And if you're having a hard time planning out how you're going to move 100, then maybe don't consider 200 records or don't consider 300 records. Number 2, and I've talked about this on the podcast for many years, but start this process while recording. While the artist is still in the studio, while you're still recording the record, or even in my case, when I'm writing and recording a record, I'm thinking about the artwork. I'm thinking about the vinyl package. When I'm testing out artwork ideas that are inspired by the music I'm making, I'm thinking about what it would look like on vinyl. I'm considering if I go with this cover, that doesn't leave me with a lot of color options to match. Or if I go with this cover option, then I have tons of color options for vinyl. And so there's a real benefit in starting this process really early. There's a lot that goes into planning for a record, and it takes a lot of time. Your role is the longest part. The artwork, the templates, the audio, the quotes from various plants, finding plants, doing research, talking to other people in your music community about who they manufacture with. Then you get to the manufacturing process. The biggest time eater in making vinyl is you, deciding on all of those things I just mentioned. So if you're a pressing plant says it will take 8 weeks to make your records, that clock starts ticking when you have the deposit paid, the artwork delivered, and the audio delivered. All that to say, start this vinyl making process really early. If it's going to take you 2 months to figure out an album cover, to get somebody to do the whole layout of all the different pieces, to decide on the inserts, to decide on the color vinyl, to get the audio mastered for vinyl, if it's going to take you 8 weeks, and then maybe your pressing plant says it's going to take 8 to 12 weeks. So right there's 20 weeks. And so that's almost half a year. It's like a third of a year. No, it's almost half a year. And so just keep that in mind. And that's why I think you should start this process as early as possible. Number 3, think a lot about the audio. This is something I really want you to think about. There's a couple things. Obviously, the quality of audio is really important. You can talk to your mastering engineer and let them know that you're going to be pressing vinyl. Maybe you pay a little extra and they do a digital master and a vinyl master. It's just something to consider. Also, you want to consider the side lengths. So I think the max is like 22, 23. The max that is like recommended is like 22 or 23 minutes per side of a 12-inch vinyl record. And I think you could push it a little bit, but you start to lose some fidelity is the reality. What you want to do, I think, to be a little less. I aim between 16 and 18 is kind of my sweet spot on each side. It's difficult because if you're given masters from an artist and they're 52 minutes, then that's going to be really tough. And you might have to consider 2 discs. And then if you consider 2 discs, you're now talking gatefolds, you're talking more sleeves, more labels. It's much more expensive. It's not exactly double the cost, but it's certainly much more expensive. And so that's just something to keep in mind. I know that not everyone has this luxury, but as I told you before, when I'm kind of working through the music, when I'm working through making the record, like writing and mixing and recording, I'm thinking a lot about the artwork, but I'm also thinking about like the track listing and thinking, okay, these 4 songs are going to be side A, and then this song is going to be the start of side B. And, that's just something to keep in mind when you're making records, is that sides are really important. You also want to talk about what are the audio features that your pressing plant offers. Do they do some sort of like quality assurance testing every 50 or every 100 records? They take one off the press and listen to it, make sure everything's good. Do they offer you test pressings? We've done an episode on test pressings. You can just go to otherrecordlabels.com/test pressings if you're curious about how to test a pressing. But are they offering you digital test pressings? Are they going to mail you test pressings? Do they have some sort of like AI feature? Do they have a mastering engineer that will do some sort of audio correction for you? You might want to talk to your rep about that. Number 4 is to make sure you invest in great design. I've talked about this millions of times on this podcast and on the For the Love of Vinyl podcast. Vinyl's a luxury. We've said this before. We do not need vinyl to enjoy music anymore, like we did in the 60s and the 70s. In the 90s and the 2000s, we needed CDs as a vehicle of music. Today, almost everything is a vehicle of music. We have computers and phones and cars and watches that are vehicles of music. And so vinyl has now become this super intimate experience, this tactile feeling of being a DJ, of curating your living room, your study break, your dinner party, whatever. And because of that, we're not just making these uninspiring black vinyl and simple vehicles for music. We're creating a moment in time. We're creating some sort of archived project, some sort of experience. In fact, we discovered this recently on a labelmates call that physical media is a way for record labels to curate the music experience from end to end, not just the songwriting and the performance and the mixing and the master, but also the music fan in their living room, opening up the vinyl, the touch and feel of the reverse board, the artwork, the lyrics, the inserts, the color of the vinyl. We get to somewhat control that. Whereas with streaming platforms, we don't control where they listen to it, what songs they listen to, in what order they listen to it, on what type of speakers or their iPhone speakers they listen to it. Whereas there's a little bit more control. And so vinyl's a luxury. Make it more than just a music delivery object. Make it an experience. And that's what's really exciting. And so when I say invest in great design, you might have to invest in a great designer, making an unforgettable album cover, but more than that, making an unforgettable experience from end to end when it comes to the disc itself, the inserts, the gatefold, that whole experience. Number 5, most importantly, just make it special. Do one thing that's unique to you. Is there handwritten lyrics included inside? Is there a variety of packages that are offered? There's some great labels in our community that do this, where it's like the basic black vinyl is the cheapest, and then maybe a color vinyl is the next level up, and then another vinyl with a handwritten lyric, or it's hand numbered in a really special variant, or there's just something really unique about it. They include a piece of merch or a test pressing at the highest tier. There's just something that's special that is unique to the artist, unique to you, unique to your music fans, that they would really appreciate. Like I said before, we do not need vinyl. And in a way, you're competing for this disposable income that people have very little of these days. And I sometimes see a record and go, I don't really see how that record is that much of a difference than me just streaming it online, or even if I just buy the $8 digital download from Bandcamp. So I don't really see me shelling out $30 for the record plus $25 for shipping. Whereas other times I'll see a record and the package just looks so stunning. The artwork, it has got like hologram inlays on it. It's a gatefold. It has this beautiful die cut printed sleeves. And then I find out the record's like $60, but it's like, I don't care. I have to have that. It's like a beautiful piece of art, So do one thing to make it special, to make it unique to you. So people in their record collection are like, I got to show you this record. Look at this. Look how cool this is. It's die cut, or it's got this insert, or it's a personal note from the artist. We all have those records in our collection that we want to share. I have some resources if you are thinking about doing vinyl. Like over the years, we've talked about vinyl in so many different ways. So I have some checklists. I have some tools and some templates that you can use. Go to otherrecordlabels.com/vinyl. That's it. Otherrecordlabels.com/vinyl. I have a massive toolkit and a massive complete guide to pressing vinyl. Whether it's your first time or it's your 50th pressing, congratulations. What a great feeling. Buying vinyl, collecting vinyl, making vinyl, listening to vinyl, such a great experience. And I hope you found this episode helpful. Thanks again to our friends at Lander, who have nothing to do with the vinyl process, but they do work together with making vinyl, making physical records, and making digital records. And I always feel that it's, we're getting to this place, I think, where there is such a good synergy, where you have the convenience of digital, but then you have such a romantic, intimate experience with vinyl. And so for that convenient side of things, check out our sponsor, Lander, by going to otherrecordlabels.com/Lander, spelled LANDR. And thanks to them for sponsoring today's episode.